What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Tad Pad, the podcast that talks about Ole Miss basketball and has a really confusing name to try to remember to say it. But as usual, I am joined with my co-host Sam Mooney. Welcome to the show, Sam, and we're here to talk about the week that was in Rebel basketball, and what a week it was. The Rebels beat really kind of shocked the world on Wednesday night at Auburn with a 60-55 victory, and then came back to Oxford and, in a very business-like fashion, took care of Missouri. I believe it was 75-65. So, Sam, before we jump into too much, tell me what's on your mind.
Man, you can't do better than a 2-0 week.
You cannot.
Man, I just continue to be really impressed with the way we've responded the last couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
The losing streak was tough, but here we are, having just ripped off 4 straight wins. And man, it's hard with the SEC being as strong as it is. Knock on wood, but you feel really, really good about where we've placed ourselves at the moment.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Like you said, while you were saying that, I was running the numbers, and the numbers indicate that you cannot have a better week than 2-0, unless for some reason you find a way to go 3-0 in a week, in which case the numbers indicate that that is better. But based on only playing 2 games, that was as good a week as you could have asked for. And I think, to me, the thing that stood out about this week, and that's why I've titled this episode "Back to the Future" with a question mark, is I think we saw some things that bode well for the next couple of years for Ole Miss basketball, because you had, in 2 different games, you had big performances from young players that one was expected, one was not so much expected. You kind of have seen KJ Buffin look like the guy he was on Saturday, but I thought Luis Rodriguez, for a lot of reasons, showed some things on Wednesday at Auburn, even though statistically it wasn't a huge night. But kind of what I would love for us to do would be to talk about the Missouri game first, and then go back to the Auburn game. So unless you protest that plan,
I strongly reject it.
Okay, well, we're going to have to go to arbitration now. So this is going to be a 7-hour podcast, and yeah, let's start with Missouri, though. And before we even start with the game itself, I loved the tribute to Justin Reed before the game. I don't know. In fact, I'm not even sure how aware you are of Justin Reed. He was a guy. He was one of those guys that kind of came along at kind of the first height of Ole Miss basketball in the late '90s, early 2000s. Was one of the vaunted Provine posse, which was obviously a group of players from Provine High School in Jackson who really kind of changed the face of the program. And he was far and away the best of the 3. It was Justin Reed, Aaron Harper, and then I don't know, some other guy. I don't know. But Justin was a legit SEC player, and actually went on to play in the NBA. Played for kind of was a journeyman in the NBA for a little while. And he very sadly passed away. I think it was late last year. But for a lot of people, and especially a lot of people my age, because I'm old as crap and Sam's a young buck over here. But for people my age, kind of early 30s, Justin Reed was kind of a hometown hero, playing high school ball in Jackson. And the Jackson high school basketball scene is always, I think, pretty underrated. You get a lot of great players out of there, and so he was kind of one of those stars. And then kind of came along at a time that we were kind of realizing that Ole Miss basketball could be cool. It could be a lot of fun, and he was one of the reasons for that. And so, the way that they honored his family and honored his legacy before the game, and then everybody in the student section was wearing Justin Reed number 23 T-shirts, and I thought that was a
Yeah.
pretty cool thing. And so it just continues to amaze me how, and this is not a this year specific thing, that the Ole Miss, at least the basketball side of things, always seems to do a really good job of honoring former players and recognizing big moments. I mean, even it's funny, but even the way that the athletic department has kind of embraced the Marshall Henderson,
Yeah.
popping his jersey moment. Like they just do a really good job of embracing former players. And I just thought it was a really cool moment before the game, to tribute to Justin that way, and to have the whole student section, and it really, I think it was like the first 1,000 people that were there or something.
Yeah.
Really representing Justin well. So I thought
Yeah.
that was a cool thing.
Absolutely. And I think the team had on some number 23 Reed warm-ups, maybe.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
And that was cool. And I
That
need
was slick.
I need to figure out how to take out a second mortgage on my house so I can buy one of those. Um,
Yeah,
but
I agree though, man. That was so cool and a really classy and sweet move by the athletic crew.
yeah, do you have any memories of Justin?
Not that I can remember. I kind
Yeah.
of the first years I remember following were like probably like 02, 03,
Uh-huh.
kind of early in that
Yeah,
that
and
run.
that would have been right. That would have been. I think he maybe was a senior like my freshman year, so that would have been
Okay, yeah.
2003. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's whatever. That's for ancient history here. But so yeah, big shout out to Justin Reed. But
Absolutely.
looking at the game itself, the thing that struck me about the Missouri game was how uneventful the Missouri game was. I mean, even I thought kind of late into the second half is Missouri. I feel like they maybe cut it to 9 or 7 or something, but it just still never felt like they were gonna. Just never felt like they were gonna get it done because
Mhm.
every time they would do something, somebody would respond. And Ole Miss has not been the best team at home this year, but to just control the game like that, I thought that was maybe the most impressive thing about today.
Mhm. I agree. And it seems like the thing that was really cool to me is it's like you beat it, given Missouri's not particularly great this year, but
Mhm.
if you can beat a team by double digits at home, extend your lead to as much as 19, and you're doing that all on a day where you're not really getting a lot of production scoring wise from your biggest two scorers,
Mhm.
is what's so impressive. I think
Mhm.
Terrence Davis had 8 and Tyree had 14, which he's been so hot that 14 doesn't seem like a lot. That's so solid.
Yeah, what a
Um,
scrub! 14 points. Good
yeah,
grief.
exactly. But that was what was so cool is it's like you completely controlled, and like you said, it was almost a little boring, but it's like, man, that's what good teams do. They just,
Hmm.
you have a team like that come into your place, and you just never let them get going, and forced a lot of turnovers too, which I
Yeah,
thought was really impressive. I
I
don't know
think.
that I've seen a team turn it over that much against us, which again is probably a little bit of Missouri not being great this year, and also Kermit's got them playing defense.
Yeah, I mean, I think the last count I saw was 25 turnovers for Missouri to only, I think, 10 to
Good
Ole
gosh.
Miss. So I mean, anytime you win the turnover battle by 15, you're probably in pretty good shape.
Gonna crunch
Um,
the numbers, but that seems good.
yeah, yeah. Well, how about while I talk, you run the numbers on that and tell me what you come up with. But I mean, uh, that's been the hallmark of the last 4 wins has been defense, and
Mhm.
that they're still not built to play Kermit's defense yet. They've got some work to do. They've got some personnel they've got to get in place before they can really do it. But um, they're making the most of it right now, and that's what's been so impressive to me is in those defensive moments, how they're going to call them. The guy that's been maybe the most impressive to me has been Bruce Stevens. He's finally playing like I think the guy that they thought he was going to be.
Mhm.
He's not out there getting double doubles or anything, but he's shooting the ball well, and his offense seems like it's leading to defense, and he's also getting a bunch of rebounds.
Mhm.
And you kind of wish that his rebounding streak would have started maybe 2 games earlier. Because
Yeah.
if he had maybe gotten more than 0 rebounds against Mississippi State,
Yeah.
then you're already in great shape. Then you're
Mhm.
in a lot better shape than you are even now. You're in great shape
Yeah.
right now. And kind of the same deal with Florida. But Stevens against Missouri, he got some rebounds, he made some plays, and he really impressed me.
Mm-hmm. And we've talked about this before, but he's a good enough shooter from the outside that defenders just have to respect that,
Mm-hmm.
and that's really good. In fact, I've seen a couple times where we've very intentionally tried to set him up for that
Mm-hmm.
pick and roll three.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I agree. His rebounding's gotten much better, and I think Kermit seems to have challenged him, and he's responded to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think we mentioned it last week. He played very, very few minutes against A&M. I think less than 10 minutes. But since then, it seems like his role's expanded a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and it's exciting to see him kind of rising to the challenge.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got a guy who you really weren't counting on at all on defense, if you've got a guy who is starting to step up a little bit defensively, going into your most important 6-game stretch of the season, I mean, that's nothing but a good thing. So,
Mm-hmm.
but speaking of guys stepping up, the star of the Missouri game was none other than KJ Buffin. And I don't know what KJ stands for, but once I figure it out, I'm going to start calling him that.
I'm gonna look it up real quick.
Yeah, do that. KJ had against Missouri. KJ had 14 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals. Of those 14 points, 3 of them came off of one shot. That is correct. That KJ Buffin stepped out and popped a 3. And he just was all over the court. He does a little bit of everything, and he does a little bit of everything, and he looks really good doing it. And he looks like he just looks like he knows what he's doing. And he's the kind of guy that as you look at him, you're like, man, when you take that jump from the freshman to a sophomore, because there are a few things in this game that you look at like, man, a more experienced player would have maybe done this or tried that or whatever. But man, he was so impressive against Missouri.
Yeah. I was thinking about this the other day, and this may not be as true of Henson as it is of Buffin, but how quickly those guys have kind of just like leveled out and become consistent.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Henson had a I guess a kind of up and down stretch where he dropped 26 against Mississippi State, then got cold for a minute. But since then, it's like I don't really worry about what those guys are going to do or if one of them's going to just have an off night. I feel like overall, both of them, and particularly Buffin, are going on, 6 or 7 games of consistently making good things happening. Again, maybe you're not getting the 20-point outings yet, but I think those are down the road. And I think, man, they're going to be a dangerous as a duo, I think, going down the road. Also, just went to OleMissSports.com, and it is Kenyon Joseph Buffin.
Yeah, so when Kenyon Joseph gets rolling, things are going to happen. And there are his game to me is so interesting. I don't want to. I'm about to offer him some very high praise, and I need to be careful with what I'm saying because I don't want to get too far over my skis on this. But he reminds me of Murphy Holloway with a better 3-point shot.
Yeah.
That he just is. He's going to make those gritty plays. He's going to be on the ground for 50-50 balls, and he's going to. I think as his game evolves, he's going to become a better scorer. There are moments where he gets the ball. He gets the ball. He's open under the goal, and he kind of waits for the defender to catch up to him so he can kind of body him up. And I think as experience grows, he'll just go ahead and either put that one up or just go ahead and dunk it.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, he's playing at probably about 215 pounds right now, and realistically, he needs to get up to 230.
Yeah.
So
he's going to be dangerous, man.
Yeah, he's only going to get better, and I was so impressed, with him on Saturday, and I think the more experience he gets, you can already kind of see that light coming on for him a little bit.
And I feel like you don't see a lot of mental errors from Kenyon Joseph.
Yep.
I feel like he I don't know. I just haven't seen him make a lot of things that you would just kind of shrug at and say, "Oh, freshman mistake." I think
Mm.
he's maybe a bit beyond his years in terms of just kind of basketball IQ and just his feel for the game. I guess he had maybe the state game. He got in foul trouble, but overall, he's been really, really solid.
Well, and I knew this was true of Blake Henson. I didn't realize this was true of KJ Buffin, and maybe it's not. And the announcers just kept saying it because I have a very low opinion of Dane Bradshaw. I'm only sort of kidding. I did heckle him and his family at a game one time when he was playing at Tennessee, but that's neither here nor there. But they kept saying that. Oh, excuse me. They kept saying that Henson and Buffin both graduated a year early. I knew that was true of Henson. I didn't realize that was true of Buffin. And so again, you're looking at a kid who should be playing high school ball this year, and again, these guys are only going to get better. And I think too, one of the things that gets understated with Terrence Davis, and I think a lot of the times, like when he has one of his kind of weird offensive nights where things just start clicking for him, people overlook this, but Terrence almost always kind of fills the stat sheet. There'll be, even a down night for him, it'll be like, 12 points, 4 rebounds, 3 steals, 3 assists, a block, whatever. And so I think that you have several guys that are freshmen this year that have that capability. I think that Blake Henson can go out and get you 5 in any category any night. I think KJ Buffin can go out and get you 5 any category any night. I think we're going to find out that Luis Rodriguez can do the same thing. It's just that that's not his role on this year's team. So
yeah.
So even on a night where Brian and Terrence and Devontae, they were all fine. They weren't bad. They had fine games, but they weren't their normal kind of electric selves. You still had Buffin and Stevens step up. I think Buffin and Stevens combined for 31 points, and the big three combined for, I think it was like 35. So, so if you can start to get your post players pacing the big three like that, it's just going to get more and more. It's just going to get more and more dangerous.
Yeah. And you talked about, Missouri cut it to what was it, 7, and you never really felt nervous. And that, to me, I think also goes to the fact that this team is shooting free throws really, really well.
Yeah.
There are Ole Miss teams in recent years that 7 points is a heck of a lot more nerve-wracking, because you feel like you're going to go 1 for 2 a number of the times that you get fouled. And, this team, you just feel like they're not going to relinquish or lead very often.
Yeah.
With the way they're shooting free throws.
And I'll say I've watched Ole Miss sports enough to be honest with you and say that I was a little nervous at 7 points. But yeah, like you said, I mean, they go to the line and they make their free throws. I mean, there's not one single player that when they go to the line that I'm nervous. Even I think Buffin, who's shooting around 65%, that number's been trending upwards for him. You even, dare I say, feel good when Dom's at the line. He tends to knock his shots down. So,
knock on wood.
Yeah, for sure. That's one of those things that,
but he's done well. You're right.
We'll go to South Carolina and go like 4 for 15 on free throws and lose by 10 or something. Oh, come on, guys. If that happens, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that we jinxed that. But that's a great point that you're making free throws so that you're like, when teams make mistakes, you're making them pay, and B, when it comes down to the end of the game where they're trying to foul you to extend the game, you're making them pay for it. And that's
Brian had 2 big ones at the end of Auburn.
Yeah, and that's such a big thing, and Brian hitting 2 big ones at the end of the Auburn game reminds me of another Ole Miss guard hitting 2 big free throws at the end of the game, and then running over to the Auburn student section and popping his jersey and reminding him who he is.
I wish Brian would have done
it. He's
I love it.
He's too laid back to do it. And we said last week if anybody was going to do it, it was going to be Blake. So Just need to make sure he's in the film room and is aware that that's an acceptable celebration to beating Auburn. Speaking of Auburn, though, Wednesday night, Ole Miss goes to Auburn in a game that I don't think anybody thought they had a chance to win. And then as soon as the game starts, you realize, oh, Blake Henson, who started every game, I think but one to that point, is out with the flu. So he's not going to get to play at all. And then Terrence Davis, I think, only played 18 minutes because of foul trouble. And so you look at all that put together, and it's like, yeah, these guys are going to fight hard because that's what they do, but there's just no chance they're going to win. And as the game goes on and they're kind of staying out in front, you're kind of like, I mean, maybe. And then Auburn kind of cuts it back, and you're like, well, I mean, this is where they make their run. And Auburn's run never really came, and Ole Miss won. Like I don't know. Like I spent the whole day Thursday just trying to figure out what in the world just happened.
Unbelievable. And I would say an instant coaching masterpiece on the part of Kermit Davis.
Yeah.
Good grief. I mean, we talked about this before, but it's just like, I think he is so good at finding the favorable matchups, coming up with a good defensive game plan for who we've got, and just working with what he has. You know, it's like, we'll get into this, I guess, more in a minute, but I thought Taylor came in and served very admirably.
Yeah.
You know, filling in for a lot of TD's minutes. And yeah, I mean, it was just really impressive. I mean, it seemed like there was a very specific effort to keep Auburn from shooting the three effectively. Like if they're going to beat us, make them beat us in the paint.
Yeah.
And you know, they got some looks there, but that was impressive. Well, and I also noticed shootings using up so much of the shot clock.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely want to try to shorten the game when you're that shorthanded. And you know, the thing, it's not just about limiting Auburn's threes; it's limiting Auburn's transition threes, because that's what they want to do. They want to get out and they want to run, and it's kind of. I mean, we're pretty good at it too, but they want to get out, they want to run, and not so much getting the fast break to get in the paint and score that way, but to get the fast break threes, and we just never let them get it.
Yeah.
And you know, we frustrated. I forgot what the percentages were, but the two Bryce Brown and Jared Harper were just especially. I saw numbers, and I should have had this in front of me, but I saw numbers where when Schuler was guarding them, they were shooting like in the 20% range.
Crazy.
And so you know, Brian kind of gets the hype for the 20 points, and Naylor and Rodriguez get the feel good story, but Devontae was the reason we won that game, because he just caused those guys so much trouble.
He's such a good on-ball defender.
Yeah, and that's what I always think back to his high school coach saying that that Devontae Schuler is the best on-ball defender he's ever had in high school. And considering where he played, and that guys like, I don't know, Carmelo Anthony played there, that's pretty high. And not that Carmelo Anthony is known for his defense, but
totally,
that's still pretty high praise when you're coming from a high school that has NBA level pedigree. And also, I mean, not to be overlooked is that he is getting healthier. His explosion is back. The way, I mean, he had I think it was the Auburn game. He got a fast break and just absolutely threw down on somebody. And it's like, okay, your foot looks like it's good. I think you're okay. and that's not a small thing at all. Because, you know, when I heard stress injury in his foot, I'm thinking, man, this thing's a ticking time bomb, and it's eventually going to go off, and you just have to deal with it. And it hasn't.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. And it's like again, obviously, like, that losing streak happened against tougher competition, but you can't help but wonder how you fare in those games if you're able to get more minutes out of Schuler. I mean, DC Davis was playing a lot for like 2 weeks, you know, and I like DC. I think he's awesome, but you know, it's just not ideal. And so, you know, there is that part of you that feels like, you play an Iowa State team that shoots off the charts. I don't know, man. If Schuler were able to go for 34 minutes in that game,
Mm-hmm.
you feel like things maybe play out a little differently. So all I can say is, like you said, I'm just glad he's trending up, especially as we get closer to the SEC tournament. And if we meet a team in the tournament that we played earlier in the season when Schuler was not as healthy, I'll be interested to see how it shakes out.
My hope is if we win 2 of the next 6 like we should, and Schuler, and we go into the SEC tournament with that 4 seed, that you know what, we just, like Devontae, you just take the week off. We don't. This tournament is as much fun as it would be to win the SEC tournament. We're in, and you just need to get healthy. So you just take the week off.
Yep.
You'll be fine. But
dude,
no,
I would be fine with that.
I totally feel there though. I mean, it's a crazy thought that it would have. I think it would have come that close to maybe losing him for the year. And and his transition to playing point guard has just been so it's been so good. It makes you wonder what it could be. Next season, as he has a full season under his belt, kind of has some time to watch film and work and figure all that stuff out. But I definitely want to touch on Luis Rodriguez and Zach Naylor, though. Zach Naylor has been weird to me because I know how much the previous staff wanted him and thought that he was going to be a really, really good player for us. And it just hasn't worked out that way. He's just not been a contributor. And that's, I mean, you hate to see that for him, but, really the first game that he gets extended minutes and he's called on and you need him, he's got to go score some points for you. And he and Rodriguez combined for 7 points and 7 rebounds. And that is, I mean, it was enough to get you the win at Auburn. And, Naylor hit a big 3, had another bucket, and really had another 3 that went down and then kind of rimmed out. But he was a basket or 2 away from a huge game. And I mean, that's just so impressive that you would have guys that were that prepared to go in and play. A lot of it speaks to them because they, again, if you're Zach Naylor, it's really easy to get frustrated this year because you're like, man, this is my junior year. I should be playing more. I'm really frustrated about all this. And, his number gets called and he shows out. And, Rodriguez, like I said earlier, I think Rodriguez, just because of what Terrence Davis does and what Blake Hinson does, I think that Luis just doesn't have much of a role this year. But if we get to the midway point of next season and everybody's raving about the improvement of Luis Rodriguez and this guy's unbelievable, he's playing so well, he's doing this, that, and the other, I'm not going to be surprised because he just looks like he knows what to do. He just kind of knows like where to be, when to be there. And even though the numbers aren't coming, eventually those things are going to start falling your way and you're going to get the experience you need to kind of keep making that work.
Yeah. Don't be surprised if Rodriguez isn't a very similar trajectory to Terrence Davis. Davis had a super limited role his freshman year.
Yeah.
And you saw flashes of that talent. And then but he just never really, there was not a big need for him his freshman year. And I just wouldn't be surprised to see Rodriguez have a similar trajectory where next year his role expands big time. And, it could be by the senior year, he's along with Kenyon Jordan.
Kenyon Joseph.
And Blake Hinson, if that's not, kind of the big 3 of the coming years of Ole Miss basketball. And I'm completely with you. Or sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, Hinson and Buffin have kind of already had their big coming out moments. And Luis just feels like he just needs the opportunity, which I mean with Terrence and Blake both healthy on the team, that's not happening this year, but he'll get that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as Naylor goes, I'm with you because it's like JUCO players are not really recruited to keep the bench warm. You know,
Yeah.
you're hoping for instant contribution there. So it is interesting. I mean, you feel like he did enough good things to potentially earn a little more playing time going forward, but it's just like there's so many people in front of him in that
Well, I
in
don't, I
that
don't, I don't, I
rotation.
don't know. I don't know if you noticed it, but there was a moment in the Missouri game where he got in and I think, missed a rebound and then gave up a 3-pointer, and Kermit Davis immediately pulled him out, and he played 1 minute.
I
And
missed it. Dang.
that's frustrating for any player. I mean, you don't want to go through
Yeah.
that, especially after having such a big game. But I mean,
Mhm.
that's just the nature of the way Kermit coaches, and I love that. I love seeing that he's he and this goes back, I think, to the brilliance of the Auburn game for him is that in some of these games, like in the Missouri game, he'll yank a guy after a minute and sit him and not play him again. And
Yeah.
but he'll chew on guys, he'll cuss them out, tear them down, whatever. Um,
Hmm.
but against Auburn, he really seemed to be playing like hey guys, like I believe in you, you can do this. Let's work hard. We're in this together. And he just kind of
Yeah.
knows when to kind of turn the screws to guys, and he knows when to kind of pat them on the back and build them up. And I think that's such an impressive trait to have as a coach, that you know how to get your guys to respond, even when things are difficult.
He has a one man good cop, bad cop approach. He can be both cops.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
uh, but yeah, one more thought on Naylor. I did not realize till he was out there. He is a big dude.
yeah,
He's like 6'7".
yeah.
Purely on just like length and size, you would think Davis would have more use for him. Just because of the defense he wants to run, because it's like
Mhm.
this is a huge dude with a long wingspan. Yeah, he's like the football equivalent of you remember the running back that I think it was Brandon Bolden's backup in like '08, Enrique Davis, where it's like
Oh, I remember
super
Enrique
athletic,
Davis.
and you're like this dude is built like an NFL back, but he's standing on the sideline doing nothing. What is happening? Because
Well,
it's kind of the same thing with Naylor. You're like, this dude's enormous. Seems
I,
like there'd be more use for him than we have for him right now.
I remember when Enrique signed with Ole Miss, and and uh, and like in fact, I remember like being in class that signing day, and this girl who I don't think I had ever spoken to ever. She saw, I guess, because this was before we had Twitter and stuff, and so she like wrote on a piece of paper. She was like, 5-star running back Enrique Davis. I'm sorry, I will always call him Enrique because Houston Nutt is just the worst person to ever live. But she was like, 5-star running back Enrique Davis signs with Ole Miss, and she like passed me the note, and I was like, okay, like cool. But his quote was like, I can't practice my 75-yard touchdown runs in Auburn's 50-yard practice facility. And and I saw him break off one long run. It was against Alabama, and he made it about 40 yards and then just got gassed. It was like, dude, you're terrible. Enrique Davis was so bad. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough spot for Zach to be in, and
Yeah.
it's one of those things that certainly I feel like um, there'll probably be some roster turnover at the end of the season.
Mhm.
But if that moment in the Auburn game is really the only moment we get from him this year or in his Ole Miss career,
Yeah.
it's a huge game. It's a huge because I mean, look, we said last week that out of the 8 games you have left, your magic number is 4. And you just need to get 4 of your last 8 and avoid,
Mhm.
really um, avoid the 2 bombshells at home. Don't lose to Missouri at home. Don't lose to Georgia at home. And you even thought that of those 4, you could afford to lose at Auburn, and you can afford to lose against Kentucky. You can afford to lose against Tennessee. And I think that maybe I even kind of expected that maybe you could go 5-3. But man, all you got to do right now is just take care of business.
Yeah.
Kind of just looking at the overall. overall look at the year, I mean, you got 6 games left, and you only need to win 2 of them.
Yeah.
And if you go 3-3 in those 6, then good grief, you're and if for some reason you go 4-2, and look, I like it wouldn't shock me to see Ole Miss beat either Tennessee or Kentucky, but I watched the Tennessee and Kentucky game on Saturday night, and um, Kentucky might have beaten the Cavaliers on Saturday night, and that means that both the Cavaliers suck, but also Kentucky looked unbelievable. So those
Yeah.
guys might be kind of putting it together at just the right time. But if you told me that maybe Tennessee reels a little bit, um, and Ole Miss found a way to win that game at Oxford, I'm surprised, but I'm not shocked. Um, so yeah, so of the last 6 games, you have at South Carolina, you have at home against Georgia, home against Tennessee, home against Kentucky, at Arkansas, and at Missouri. So, Sam, look into your crystal ball and give me a prediction for what happens in these last 6 games.
Man, good question. First off, you're right. I mean, you feel really good about where we are. I've been following a lot of the bracketology and bubble watch articles from various publications. And I mean, right now, man, we're not even on the bubble.
Nope.
Right now, everybody, and that's what's so exciting. So, Carolina is a tough one on the road, but I do believe we can win it. Also, I think one thing to consider about that South Carolina game, important game for SEC tournament seeding.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think they're probably in contention for that 4th spot. But I think I feel pretty confident saying we should take care of business against Georgia in the Pavilion.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
After yesterday, I think we beat Missouri by double digits without our most productive days from the Big Three, as it were.
And the Big Three tend to play better on the road.
Yes. So you feel like you can take care of business there. Don't think I'm particularly nervous about Arkansas. As we mentioned, like trips to Bud Walton often end in heartbreak, or at least it's a good situation for heartbreak. But again, I think I feel good about there. So, I mean, I'm looking at 3-3, and I'm with you. I feel like South Carolina is very winnable. I think our team's going to go in there knowing the importance of the win if we can get it. And dare I say it, I think we might go 4-2.
I mean,
dropping the mic.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say something worse than that, but and look, anything can still happen at this point.
Totally.
But we've played better on the road. I feel like we've gotten our kind of weird out physical shell shot game out of us in Tuscaloosa, and I don't know. We've played well against better teams in South Carolina on the road. We've beaten better teams in South Carolina on the road. And so I'm not going to call it a win because I think Frank Martin's that good. But
he's good.
I think that if we play defense like we played, if Stevens or Dom can rebound the ball, and we can kind of manage Chris Silva, then that should be a win. And you mentioned tournament seeding implications, and really right now, it's pretty much Ole Miss and South Carolina exclusively battling for 4th and 5th. Ole Miss and South Carolina both are sitting at 8-4 in the SEC, and I think the next closest is State at 6-6, and South Carolina's already beaten State. Ole Miss is split with State, and so it would take a lot for them to overcome. And State still has to play Tennessee and at Auburn. So they would pretty much have to win out to be in a better spot in South Carolina, and would all but have to win out to be in a better place than us. So this is, you've worked hard all season to get yourself to this game, which is the most important. It's the most important game of the season. But the beautiful thing, if you're Ole Miss, you don't have to win this game. You can go to South Carolina and not really have to feel any pressure because, again, like you said, at this point, we're not even on the bubble. We're in. Like we're on the right side of the bubble by, I think, a good margin. And South Carolina is still kind of, their non-conference record has been bad enough that they're still kind of hovering around 100 in the net, which is the new kind of tournament measurement tool, and that's not a good spot for them. So they really need this game. So that's a double-edged sword. It could be a really good thing for you because they could really be playing tight, and or they might come out and pop you. But I mean, our guards have just been so good on the road, and I just don't like. I just don't feel like I want to predict the loss until we lose. It's like you can't. I mean, again, you go back to that Auburn game, you can't explain it. They just found a way to win, and I don't think that South Carolina is as good as some of those teams. So, I think that home against Georgia should be a win. If you told me we got one of the two against Tennessee or Kentucky, I wouldn't be shocked. But I'll say those two are. I'll still say those two are losses. The thing that's interesting to me is what happens at Arkansas, because there's a really good chance that they pretty much give up. They've got that the Gafford's kid that's going to be a lottery pick. At what point does he kind of say, all right, we're not playing for anything at this point. I'm going to maybe not necessarily shut it down, but, maybe not.
Take risk control.
Yeah, maybe not necessarily. At this point, it's like, look, I've done what I came to do. I just need to stay healthy so I can get my millions of dollars here pretty soon.
Yeah.
So what happens with them? That's the thing. But I mean, I think I don't know. I want to say 3-3 is maybe the most likely, and 3-3 puts you at 21-10, I think, and that would be
not bad.
That would be 11-7 in the SEC. So I think that would probably be just missing that 4 seed. But if we go into the SEC tournament with 10 or more SEC wins, then I think we're in unbelievable shape. Before we wrap this up, I do want to point out, we mentioned him earlier, but man, DC Davis has been really good. He's not been a star by any measure, but he just I was nervous when he was getting a lot of playing time because, again, tons of heart, seems like a great kid, but you just kind of wonder, like, I mean, you're a walk on, and that's not encouraging. But he's played 15 to 20 minutes and has been productive. And again, I think it just speaks to the testament of it's just a testament to the nature of these guys this year, is that they find ways to win. Guys step up and get it done. And I mean, again, like I said, they just keep winning games. You just look up and they've won again. So why not keep it going?
I agree. And the thing I've been so impressed with DC is, when you come in substituting for a guy who casts as big a shadow as Devontae Shuler does, that's a lot of pressure. And DC never seems rattled. And on top of that, statistically, I don't think he's turned it over very much at all. I feel like I can count on one hand the times he's turned it over. In fact, I remember the Arkansas game, I think, was the first game where they really held Shuler's minutes and gave DC kind of an expanded role. And as I recall, he didn't turn it over a single time, and is able to chip in a few big points off the bench. And also, he's hit a few more threes recently, which it's exciting to see his range expanding. So I agree. I mean, it's been exciting and impressive to see what he's done. And like you said, I mean, seems to be a great guy, and you love to see a walk-on be able to be a real contributor for an SEC team.
Yeah, and it continues to be just an insane thought that this is a team that Kermit Davis did not build. This is not. They don't. It's not to say that they're not good players, but they can't do what he wants to do on defense yet, and they still probably play ISO ball a little bit more than he wants them to, and so it's only going to get better from here as he builds his roster and gets guys, and so. I just, I would have never thought. I mean, I think I put this on Facebook or something because I'm old and old people still use Facebook. But, I would have said before the season that 18 wins was a wildly successful season for these guys. And now looking at it, it's like, man, if we win less, if we stay at 18, that's going to be insanely disappointing. Because of where you are and who's left on your roster with 6 games to go. Yeah. So just a major testament to Kermit Davis, and big shout out to Terrence Davis, because I mean this was senior year and a lot of crazy stuff happened last year but man, these guys are fun, and I think we got another fun week of Rebel basketball ahead of us.
So happy for Terrence and Brian. Couldn't agree more, man. They've earned it, and it's fun, man.
Yeah.
It's the future is bright, and the amount of fun basketball we got in year one is far exceeded my expectations. Yeah. That's for sure.
So give me an actual prediction for Tuesday against South Carolina.
Oh man. I think it's close. My heart is telling me Rebs by 3.
Okay.
I think it's a tight one. I think Frank Martin has them coming. But, man, I just think this is a team. I think this team plays at their best when they've got a chip on their shoulder, but they can be a little loose. And I think that's exactly how we'll be. Also, we've talked about this. Other than maybe the Tuscaloosa game, this team hasn't come out flat pretty much at all. Yeah. The energy's always there. And I think you're going to see it Tuesday night. I think they'll know what's on the line. And I think Rebs by 3.
Man, I hope you're right, because my heart is telling me not that. I think I don't know. I just got the feeling that one's got a South Carolina win written all over it. But we'll see. I mean, if you go 2-0 again this week, then everything for the rest of the year is just complete gravy. So, thank you, people, for listening. If you listened, and if you didn't, you should be listening. And this was fun as always. And Sam, we'll be back talking Rebel Hoops next week.
Lego, good times.
Young Sheldon is next.